Dominic, you're on mute. Have you all started?
Oh, how's that?
Is that better?
Now we can
So-
hear.
Okay, so we're gonna do a quick roll call, and after roll call, I'd like to just everybody just go around and introduce themselves really quick to get to know each other, since we have some new members on our board here.
And that introduction can be your roll call. So I've got Mark who's here and who's not for the record, so.
All right, we want to start with Maureen, since Maureen's online.
Hi, I'm Maureen. I'm subsection 4. I'm sorry.
I'll just keep going.
We were on, there was on a mute, so I missed part
That's
of
okay.
the introduction was. I'm sorry.
Maureen, I'm muddling through this, so bear with me. Lisa Beatty.
I'm Lisa Beatty. I'm a representative from the city of Milwaukee.
And I'm Grover Bornfeld, and I am a representative from sub-area 1.
And I'm Mark Elliott, sub area 2.
Dave Gilman, sub area 4.
Allie Fierstein, Milwaukee, sub area 5.
Sarah Gatamo, sub area 1. And Ryan C, sub area 2. And we do not have Katie Scott. She is absent at this point, and she is vice chair.
And Jeanette DeCastro, have
Jeanette.
not heard, and Joel Bergman was excused.
And Joel Bird, okay. I think Jeanette will be a little bit late. All right. We got- Oh, sorry.
And then
Katie.
Katie's not coming. I heard it.
Katie is here. Katie,
Thank you.
give your introduction. All right, so any discussion on the July 12th, 2023 meeting minutes? Any discussion? We're good? Okay, so we'll approve the July 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. Okay, discussion agenda, let's move forward. So we have a presentation with Mike on the system plan, the Parks and Recreation District system plan. Mike, would you like us to hold questions to the end?
That would be perfect. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
And joining us online is Katie Dunham, who is in Texas, but is transitioning the kind of kickoff of the project. So she'll be here, especially if there's some super technical questions. I'm gonna not run through the slides, but certainly go through them with a little rapidity. Everybody's had this for about a week, so hopefully you've had a chance to at least glance at things. But really, we just wanted to have a chance, since we're getting ready to kick off the system plan, to just have an opportunity to present some of these things that you see in the first. Go ahead and advance the slide. Just some common definitions, so that when you hear us talking about things, we're on the same page. Our purpose, key elements, phases, how we see this going all the way through, including some initial project timelines. Go ahead. We're gonna get these things figured out, we swear. So just generally, we're taking some of our system plan approach from the CAPRA, which is the Commission for the Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies. You all will be hearing more about CAPRA as we proceed in our system plan process, but one of my goals is for us to, within the next 4 or 5 years, be CAPRA certified, which means that we would join one of only a few hundred municipalities and districts around the country that are fully accredited on best practice and best operations. And again, you'll hear more about that, but the CAPRA standards and NRPA really says that a system plan should provide recommendations for these 4 main things, and then there's a whole lot of subcategories of that. But for recommendations for facilities, programs, and services, park acquisition, development, maintenance, operations, and then all the way up to and including our administration and management of how we do what we do. It needs to be adopted by a policy making body, which would be our Board of County Commissioners, acting as the NCPRD Board of Directors. And it's linked, part of the capital or part of the system plan is the capital improvement budget and a capital improvement outlay. And it is updated. It's meant to be updated periodically. Ours is woefully out of date, and we're rectifying that with this process. So these are all things that are kind of must-haves from CAPRA's standards, and there's a few others, like we need to make sure we do things like a market analysis, or kind of a trends analysis of other agencies, things like that. But these are the basics. So the purpose and approach of this specific systems plan is to provide this 20-year district vision with a 10-year comprehensive plan, and further down, I'm going to skip down to the last one, and a 5-year capital improvement plan. That doesn't mean that once we adopt the capital improvement plan, we don't look at it again, or it's not modifiable for another 5 years, but that should be our framework that we're planning out 5 years at a time. But we can revisit it, as often as is needed. But the purpose really is to engage with our citizens to broaden the inclusion, understanding, communication, and consensus about what our needs, what our vision, what our mission needs to be, using these industry standards for our research and analysis. And as I've talked about, the best practices for everything, including inclusive and meaningful engagement. And so we're leading the partnership with a consultant for this process, as we've talked with you all about, and as our chair was involved in the selection process for that. There's a few key elements that we've identified just as we go through, and they're kind of tiered like this pyramid, with the foundation being our implementation plan, how we plan to do that, and how we plan to measure and handle kind of the ongoing metric side. But really up at the top, it starts with the mission that will be part of the discussion from the consultants with our community engagement. What is the mission? What do we exist for? And it may be redefined from what our existing mission is. That typically is what happens in one of those processes. Same thing with the vision statement. So mission and vision and values are often kind of those top three things that you hear as kind of the groundwork and starting point, which then creates the goals and strategies, and then creates that implementation plan and the metrics. We are going to spend much more detail, one slide for each of these. So really 4 phases. We're in phase 1 right now, or we're actually not even, we're 0.8, not quite to phase 1 at this point, but we're going to be getting ready for project kickoff and the first part, which is that existing systems conditions analysis. We'll go through each one of these individually, so go ahead and advance that slide. So with the project kickoff, we've talked about this probably a lot with some of you, maybe not as much with all of you, but the existing conditions analysis, the kickoff part is really, meeting with the consultant, figuring out how we're going to do things, what our engagement plan, things like that. But really the real meat of that is this existing conditions. That's where our staff is going to be pushing a lot of information about what we already have, past histories, different conditional reports that we may have done over the years. But they're also looking at things like our previous chair has talked about the comprehensive plan that the county has, and comparing all of these, old comp plans or old master plans or system plans that we've had. So it's really just getting a good footing on where we are at and where kind of from that where they think it should be going. And from there, it really moves into go ahead and advance the needs assessment and priority assessments, which that starts where we are now implementing that engagement plan. And so the engagement plan is developed in phase 1. We put it into play with all of these public meetings with stakeholders, with focus groups, with general community meetings, probably some presentations from or at least 1 or 2 presentations from the consultant, possibly virtually or in person, depending on timing, with this body, with the board of directors, check-ins. But really the end result of this is they're looking at everything from the park and facility kind of detailed analysis, our recreation programs, and then our just overall governance and management and how we operate. So all of that is kind of couched into that phase 2, the needs assessment, the data gathering, and kind of putting it all together into phase 3, which is developing then that long range vision. And that is where we start talking about, not just the immediate needs, but how we reach those long-term needs in things like financial strategies and how we can use our performance metrics to drive outcomes. Creating these readable, usable documents that don't just become really expensive paperweights or flash drives that get, stuck in a drawer, but things that actually are achievable. And that all is, again, tied to those priority strategies and actions that are all, again, foundationally based on the needs assessment, what the community has said they desire, they want, they would like to pay for. And then phase 4, that implementation strategy, we're going to be making recommendations, or the consultant will be making recommendations for how do you accomplish those short, medium, and long range goals. And it's going to cover all of these different categories that you see here, from funding to partnerships to SDC, staffing, programs, regulations, and more. It is truly meant to be as comprehensive as we can, that gives us a really easy, clear, and understandable to the public and to staff. As we have turnover, we want it to be an easy document to say, hey, here's our roadmap, here's where we're going. So we want it to be very user-friendly and usable. In talking about just generally getting into the specifics of the plan outside of the kind of phases, we wanted to just provide, there were a couple of graphics that we were throwing around as to which one would be most punchy. I liked this one where it shows that community is at that foundation. It's not at the bottom, it's the foundation that really is driving information going up to the DAC, our management team, our staff and consultants, and then that's getting funneled up to that board of directors. And you also see that the community is also directly, informing that board of directors as well. And it winds up being this really cool cycle of feedback if we are doing enough engagement in the right way, which that'll be one of the measures. If we've got clear communications where everybody knows where we're at in the process, what's going on, what phase we're at, all of that, and the board of directors is as informed. Then when it goes to adoption, which, that's the ultimate test of once we develop this really great plan and have ideas, which it's nothing more than ideas on how to fund them and put them into play, we have to have that buy-in from our adopting body to actually make it effective so that we can start going. So we want to make sure that even that top director level board is staying as informed as they can be, keeping in mind they've got a lot of things on their plate. So we don't want it to be, intrusive or too repetitive, but have key points that we're bringing them up to speed as well. You all will be kind of the sounding board for some of those that we're following up our meetings with you with bringing those same types of updates to the board. Just so that we're all aware, our consultant is a design workshop. They have lots and lots and lots of experience in exactly what we're doing. We're just showing a few of the projects that they were involved with. South Suburban Parks and Rec. Katie, I can't remember. Is that South Suburban Colorado? South Suburban, yeah. Okay.
Colorado, yep.
Yeah. Vancouver's Park and Rec, they called it the playbook. You can see that Vancouver said Van Play. And is that Vancouver, Washington or Vancouver, BC?
Vancouver, BC. Check it out. Check out their website. They've got some great products from their system plan.
And the bottom photos that you see, they're really like the map there. It's one type of potential imaging graphical overlay that we expect to see. We're going to try and have several of them. We're in the final stages actually of hiring our GIS intern that's going to be working specifically on building our park layers and database layers in GIS. So that and in this reimagine the 10 transformative projects, I want to say, was that the Van Play one, Katie, or is that from a different plan?
It's actually from Salt Lake City. And again,
Okay.
A really great example of just that one visual piece, how great and understandable that can be for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, they've got, their vision, their values and goals all in one statement. And it's a little small. If you go to our slide, the actual packet, you can blow that up. But they really, they came up with these 5 key indicators. I don't know exactly what they call them, of sustain, connect, welcome, protect, and grow. And all of their, everything in their mission and vision is tied to that, and their goals for how they make it implementable. They've tied it to these 10 transformative projects also, 2 in each of those categories. So just to give you an idea of kind of the unique structure that this group design workshop, we're getting ready to start this, 14 to 18 month relationship. So we're very excited. I know I'll just on my own end, I was very impressed. The chair, I think, would share that sentiment. Anybody that looked at the packet for when we were doing our judging. So one of the final slides, I think, is just timeline. And you notice I don't have any hard dates on here. So generally we're talking, project kickoff this fall. This winter going into the spring, the needs assessment, going into the spring more proper, we should start getting some feedback and results, outcomes from them on our long range stuff. Then we anticipate next summer, we would be starting the plan review and revision on most of the overall final plan next fall, with hopefully adoption and implementation in winter. So just a little over a year from now. There's going to be a lot of touch points for the DAC to be involved, throughout the process. Both will be giving updates at every meeting as kind of a standing item of where we're at and what's going on. But then any of these community engagement efforts that we've got, you all are going to be invited to, whether you can or choose to go to any or all of them. That'll be one of the ways for the DAC to really get involved, is to come to these, hear directly from these folks as much as possible. And some of that we've got to work out with our consultants. Some of them have different rules depending on the level of the meeting, but anywhere we can be involved, we're going to make sure that you're all invited to be involved. Let's see, I think the next, there we go. Next slide was the question slide. But I do want to make sure that we look, if you keep in mind, look at this link down at the bottom. It's very easy, ncprd.com/system plan or /system-plan. That it will be where the project page grows from. It's pretty bare right now. But what you can do is it does have some basic info, but what you can do is direct other people to there if they want to stay involved and informed specifically on the system plan. There's a way to join that mailing list right from that website, from the system plan. So it's a good way, if you remember, just ncprd.com/system plan, people should be able to find it. They can also go just to ncprd.com and follow, they've got to click a few links to get there. But it's a really good way to keep people informed, to stay on, any special meetings, events, things like that. We'll send out specific emails to people that opt in to wanting to stay involved with that. So Katie is here, as you have heard. Other Katie Dunham is here. If you have any questions for me or for Katie, we would be happy to take them.
Go ahead. A couple of questions I have now. I won't do them all at once here, but just first, it was in phase 1. There was reference to the NCPRD guiding documents.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what those are, and if there's some updates that we anticipate needing to do as a part of that phase 1.
We don't know that yet, but really it's working with what we've got. So some of the guiding documents are like what I talked about, the county's comprehensive plan, any operational plans that we've got, even going and looking at previous master system plans, going back to, I think, even our 2004 one. So looking at any of that stuff that has guided our agency in the past as that kind of foundational thing. And Katie reminded me also that also includes our metro regional plans and other plans like that as well.
Yeah,
so
I think my question, where I was thinking, was in relation to the goal setting that the committee here has been doing, whether that's fold it into that, or if that's something separate or come out?
It would be separate. I mean, really, and you all will talk about goals here in a bit, but yeah, I mean, I think it would be informed by.
Under phase 4 funding and STCs, does that include the analysis of district tax rates and suggestions on how that might be informed as far as the plan that comes up with the 5-year implementation?
Sure.
Part of that phase 4.
Less specific than that. It's going to be probably more generalized alternative revenue sources. So it may mention that, you know, one option for additional revenue could be a change to the permanent tax rate, or it could be a local option levy for operational stuff, grants, foundational naming rights, those types of things. And then for, you know, capital investment, it should be giving us some sort of an idea of if there's the will or interest to do a bond, and if so, what that bond package might include.
So if there was an interest in saying, making a change to the tax rate, that might happen under a separate effort.
It would be completely separate. Yeah, that wouldn't be done. All the system plan may do would be to say that's a possibility or a possible pathway.
Okay. And the governance element, where does that fit into the conversation about the increments?
We're still figuring that out. Yeah, I mean, it really, I can't answer that right now, until we have a chance to sit down with our consultants. We haven't even talked with them really about that in much detail. And it's really not, it's not a thing right now that we're actively pursuing. We've done the polling, we've talked to our board. You know, it will be part of the information flow that, hey, we've done this, you know, set of polling. This is what it indicated. And there may be, again, recommendations in the outcome that say, hey, this should be something that's considered, but it's not mandating.
It might grow out of the community engagement.
Exactly.
Conversations with
Yeah.
other folks that something might transpire, come to the surface.
Exactly.
And that just had to do with, you know, this is an 14 to 18 month process. It's not impossible to expect that there might be a change in governance during that period.
Anything is possible.
So I'd be curious to, I mean, we couldn't answer that now, but how that might affect the timeline.
Right. Yeah.
There will be an election.
Yeah, there will be an election.
There will be an election that would affect the Board of County Commissioners, yeah, but that, yeah. That's it.
Thank you, Mark. Over. You had your card up first, go.
Okay, fine. So thanks. Great report. I have questions about what some of the things mean. So
Sure.
kind of throw out a couple of them, and if you could help fill in. It is about the comprehensive plan. It mentions specifically and which comprehensive plan is being referred to here on purpose and approach, 20-year district and 10-year comprehensive plan.
That's we're going to have a 10-year comprehensive plan.
Okay.
That we're not changing the county's comprehensive plan, or at least that's not the effort of changing the county's. We are going to be looking at the county's comprehensive plan. Does it need to be updated? All we can do is make recommendations to that happen. And those would be informed by this review where the consultants are going to be looking at that county comprehensive plan, producing a 10-year comprehensive plan and then this 20-year long range plan.
All right.
Do you mind if I add to that just to kind of clarify? Because this is something, if you don't mind, Lily, that I've struggled with as doing planning is we tend to use a lot of the same terms for very different things. And that's why I push for Parks and Recreation System and Services System Plan. It was really about the system. It is comprehensive in its approach. There's comprehensive plans for like cities and counties. Then there's really the structure in my mind should be then system plan, then master plans, which are site specific. And I think that gets muddled a lot. So hopefully during this process, we'll be able to find a dialogue that isn't as confusing. But I get confused by that a lot. there.
No, I appreciate it, and it's somewhat the same point, it's like defining our terms, and I want to come from, my buddy Thelma was very clear before we even formed the DAC, this is a district advisory committee for one district, that's all 105,000 people. And when we start talking about comprehensive plan, well, there's a oodles of stuff, including distance that people should go, not now in the moment, but to head for, and what's our strategy to get us from wherever we are now, which we don't yet know, to where we are in compliance with what the comprehensive plan for Clackamas County applies to 84,000 people out of the 105,000 people. Milwaukee has its own comprehensive plan. They look at it, do whatever they do with it, and they represent it the way they do, and they have much more direct access to how they run their part of it. But the other 4 sub areas, the correlation between the comprehensive plan, which is mandated by the state, which is, like you said, way out of date, and none of this is a fault for here, but I want to know when we start doing this assessment, specific inventory, etc., the comprehensive plan, the current one that we are supposed to be operating under Clackamas County, is that there's national standards for not having to walk more than a mile to a park. That's the ideal goal. Well, how many people in the 105,000 people have to walk significantly farther than that? And that's something, as far as knowing the inventory, how close are we to that national model as opposed to?
That's all part of what's being studied as part of this comprehensive system plan. I mean, when I'm talking about the graphical overlays, one of the maps that should be shown is walking distance from all of the different areas within the district to all of our facilities or trails, and not just ours. I mean, it's going to take into account other trails that we're not owners of, but do connect, so all of that's the comprehensive nature as we're talking about it.
Okay.
Not confusing it with the county's comprehensive plan. Again, I can't force anybody to adopt even this document once it's produced. And all we can do is there will be a set of recommendations to the county to update just our portion of the comprehensive plan for the county that would be more in line with the efforts of what we're undertaking right now.
Sure.
I don't know what that means, what type of changes. We need to wait for the process to go.
This is our clarity. So everybody knows that our system plan is our district's clarity on what do we have, where are we going, what does our community want? It truly is the clarity that we need. And then I'm guessing, Mike, that then gets, when it gets adopted, if it gets adopted by the Board of County Commissioners, that's part of adopting into the comprehensive plan so that it has teeth.
Correct.
So it's our piece as NCPRD of that bigger piece. So that makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, generally, and again, I don't want us to turn the system plan into a unicorn that's everything for everybody all the time. It's not going to have every single bit down to the nth detail. It's going to give us a roadmap. It's going to make recommendations for other things like our trails plan. We're going to have some trails work done as part of the system plan, but it's really, we actually just got the Board of County Commissioners to authorize us to apply for a grant that would help fund the trails, the comprehensive trails system plan. Separate. We'll have some involvement in the system plan, but it's going to say to do this justice, you need to really do a full separate trails plan. So it's not just what is the content, the meaty content in the system plan. It's the other things that it recommends that we need to keep doing. It's not just slap a coat of shellac on it and we don't look at it again for another 20 years. It's meant to really be something that we're looking at every year when I'm developing budget, every time anybody's talking about goal setting, everything should be tied back to that system plan.
And I appreciate what you said, and I'm totally concur that we're not looking for the uniform that will meet everything. And it doesn't separate the fact that 84,000 people in our district live and are under the purview and oversight of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan. And the things that are said in there need to I heard you said to look at it, but it really needs to be integrated in this as long as we are still part of or
But
in.
we
Clackamas
can't
County.
control that.
No, no, no,
yeah.
you keep.
All we do is make
I want
recommendations.
to clarify, I did not say that. I am not asking us to change anything about the comprehensive plan that belongs to Clackamas County. I am speaking, it's chapter 9 is about parks. It is to actually take into account and address what is there, not change theirs. No. Identify and suggest that we are either, we have to say that this isn't what we're committed to, and then we have to tell them it's wrong or bad, but I'm not asking you to do that either.
Sorry, what's the question, please?
Yeah.
The
I'm
clarification,
where
no,
we're
I
at.
am trying to clarify the misstatement that just came back. I am not suggesting we need to tell Clackamas County. This is a clarification. I am not suggesting we tell Clackamas County how to run their comprehensive plan. I agree with Ryan said earlier, I don't think you should use the word comprehensive plan for that sheer confusion value. You can talk about, you can look at one, but this is the creating one. But then there
Okay.
is in fact, no.
Point of order, that's, just what's the question?
The question is, how does this project take into account the existing
Asked
in
and answered
place
several
comprehensive
times.
plan of Clackamas County that has guidance
It's-
over
I don't know
484,000?
how many different ways I can answer it, Grover. I've explained.
Grover? Grover, can I answer your question?
Katie.
So, actually, the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, was written before the district came into play. So it was written in 1988, I believe, and it is out of date. And it sets goals for the district that are now surpassed by the current NCPRD system plan, master plan. The new system plan that we develop here at NCPRD will be adopted by our board of directors. And then after that, one of the implementation projects that should be done after this system plan is completed is NCPRD should propose to Clackamas County that they update Chapter 9 to reflect the NCPRD district and goals. And what they would do is actually not have any recommendations for our part of the district. Their section of their comp plan would just refer to our NCPRD system plan. So that we've actually had communication with Clackamas County staff about this recently. And we tried to actually make some of those changes this year, and it didn't fit into their schedule. But that is an implementation step of this system plan after it is completed. Does that answer your question?
The last part of it, I have complete agreement, and thank you for that. The front part, it was written in the 70s. It's been updated all the way through 2021.
No.
I'm sorry, they just do piecemeal pages. They don't do the whole thing, but it has pages in the Chapter 9 now that are.
And again, we're
I just, when I hear these
Point of
broad
order,
statements.
point of order. That means we stop. We've answered the NCPRD portion. We're not talking about the overall county. Do you have another question?
I do.
Okay.
So now we're talking,
Question.
what are performance metrics in phase 3?
that's going to be determined based on the data that we get from the consultant. It's going to
So,
be how we measure what we do and how we are able to communicate those success measures.
Okay.
But what they are specifically, I can't tell you that. I won't know that.
But
Yeah, like just-
an example, Grover, an example for a performance metric is what you were saying, for example, the half-mile level of service to a park or natural area. So we may come up with where we're at now and what our goal is in the future. And then you look at that every year and you confirm, are we meeting our goals? Are we making progress toward these goals? So that's an example of what one of those types of metrics could be.
Great, thanks. And the next question has to do with community demographics, and that's a phrase that's used commonly, but are we going to define what demographics are going to be taken into account, like mobility, like income, language, children in the home, all those are demographics as far as what we need to look at for parks. So what are the community demographics and when and how will they be decided? And will it already be evaluated before anybody else knows what the demographics that are being measured are? So my question is, will we have an opportunity to know what those demographics that to be measured are before
Yes.
it's over?
Grover, I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to say, we're gonna keep you all informed. Are you going to drive what demographics we use? Is this body going to make any decisions on what demographics are used? No, we're gonna go off of census data for the most part. We're then going to be looking at, I don't know if all of those, the categories, but yes, we are going to use a comprehensive set of demographics. Do I have that list right now?
I didn't ask for
No.
it now, just be clear.
We'll keep you all informed on that. But yes, the process will keep you all up to date.
Yes, there was a request 2 years ago, and I just wonder if it will be integrated into the inventory. Since we have a representation across 5 sub areas, will we be able to know what the inventory breakout is across the 5 sub areas to support the sub areas and being able to coordinate with their own individuals in their own area? What's coming down the pipe, what already exists within their sub area, etc.
That information is already available. You and I have talked about that. I mean, we have a list of parks.
Yeah.
We have a defined border of how the sub areas were laid out. Now, there's some discussion on how fuzzy some of the areas are down to the actual line. But I guess I don't understand the question. Yes, we are going to be looking at all of our facilities. We should be able to provide breakdowns of how many parks are in sub area 1.
Thank you.
But this is the big but though. I am not saying that our system and our district is set up as representative, that if one sub area has a new park, then the other sub areas get a new park, or that one sub area has X amount and the other has half of that. That's going to be informed. Where we develop new parks is going to be informed by the system plan, and it's not going to necessarily be one-to-one, trade-off. And that discussion is a real dangerous ground to start treading, because there are a lot of different factors that are involved in where parks are and why they're there and all of that.
Okay, so thank you for the first half of that. I didn't in any way suggest that it would then, once it's done, it ties to it. So my question is, will there in fact be each sub area, how many parks and facilities are within that sub area? Not
Asked
saying
and
the
answered.
second part. Okay, good. That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'm done, thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to understand the order of operations with the system plan and funding. So must the plan be developed first, then we can seek funding to help the plan along? So we want to develop a skate rink.
So no, we
yeah.
can't get ahead. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody is going to say, Siri, if you want to donate $50 to a skate park project, I mean, there's mechanisms for that. But nobody has told us, we're not informed by any way, shape, or form that a skate park is needed, or where a skate park would be desired, or if people are willing to pay for a skate park. So that's where we don't want to get the eggs in front of the basket, or a cart hatching before horses, or any of the mixed metaphors you want to use. We do the needs assessment.
Mhm.
The needs assessment is the informed data from the community telling us what they want, where they want it, how they want it, how they want to pay for it. That then drives the outcome of both the short term, the capital projects, the longer term, the long range vision. All of that is then driven from the data that's retrieved, and the comprehensive look at all the other stuff. All of that is combined into the output. The financial part is not telling us do this to pay for this. The financial part's going to, again, as I think I said earlier, it's really just going to say, here are ways to look at how you could fund X, Y, or Z, or based on the community's input in the system plan needs assessment part. We think there's a strong idea that you could look at a X, $1 million bond. And I'm not saying a million, I'm saying an X. I don't want to put a number on there and be tied to anything in the future, but whatever, level of bond, it will help inform whether the community has said that a bond or a levy or a tax rate increase or whatever other stuff would be desirable, would be, you know, something, again, our usage fees, there's lots of different alternative revenue sources. So the system plan is just going to help inform us. It's not going to give us the roadmap on how to pay for it exactly. It's just going to give us that idea.
Okay, could you provide at least me or the group information on to how we can afford capital projects? Like you mentioned before that we, like levies are a way to pay for, no.
Bonds are a way to
Sorry,
pay.
bonds are a way, thank you, bonds are a way. Could you give us that information? Because for me, the confusion is if we raise our tax rate, that money, from what I understood, could not be used to pay for those capital projects. Lost, no, because I thought that was incorrect, thank you. That's what I thought too, yeah.
It can if it's identified in that funding.
Okay.
Right. There's,
Say
yeah,
that again, I'm sorry?
it can, if it's identified in, say, the project funding that we're using general fund tax dollars to pay for this Concord project. I mean, the money that's going in to fund this project is coming, a big chunk of it is coming out of our general fund dollars. It's not that you can't use your tax revenue. You should try and seek out other revenue sources like bonds for major capital projects. But every year we have a capital replacement and repair set of money, $2 to $3 million. And that's been higher in past years and it fluctuates, but that's direct tax revenue that's used for capital purposes. My point in what you may have misheard or I may have misspoken was we have used capital stuff in the past without any plan on how to, or we have used tax dollars for capital planning when there were other options that could have been looked at. We just never looked at them.
Okay, got it.
And so that's what I'm trying to do different is, but to your point, the difference, so our permanent tax rate change, which is one of the things that was tried in the last ballot measure, a permanent tax rate change, it's not unrestricted, but you can use it for capital, you can use it for operations, you can use it for pretty much anything. As long as it's identified and approved by the body and follows, you know, proper finance laws. A local option levy is a 5-year sunsetted, essentially bump to the permanent tax rate. So it's not affecting the permanent tax rate, but it would be money on top of your permanent tax rate. And it's usually for maintenance and operations. Again, it's nothing, I don't think there's anything that prohibits that, but it's for maintenance and operations. It's usually the building of the capacity to do then the stuff that is the general obligation bond. And there's several other bonds, revenue bonds, others, but a geo bond, a tens of millions of dollar bond to build a new facility or redevelop a major, new park. That's what those bond dollars. And so it's not that you can't, it's just we have, and I think there's a better way to do it.
So is there any benefit in starting the process of educating the people in the community that if we want to achieve, this makes some assumptions, you'll see them. If we want to achieve what other parts of the state or United States have in terms of parks for our size, we need to increase our funding. Starting that conversation would mean that might mean an increase in the tax rate, for which would be in perpetuity, but also allow us to have a consistent base of money, not run out after a lapse after 10 years. Do you think there's any benefit in starting that now if we can see that not without the systems plan and it being up to date and people like Milwaukee leaving potentially due to issues like this or wanting to leave, that we might need to start the conversation to ask for more money and an effective tax rate, but also just to educate.
Right. Lots to unpack there. And Chair, I want to make sure that
we are running out of time.
My last question is it.
May I answer that briefly?
Sure.
Like, if you don't mind. So I'm doing a system plan on myself, and we are trying to find a funding strategist actually right now. And it's really that high level piece. I do think as a recommendation to our system plan team is that this, although this is an outreach piece, this also could be an education project. And it's a multiple thing. It's an education project as well as a community, trying to get information from the community. And having a project page that has documents that we're looking at, what are funding sources, that would be really, really helpful, I think.
Yeah, and I guess to add on to that, I mean, all I can speak of is when we did our polling for governance that we just finished. One of the reasons that we asked the question that was asked, which was, would you support a governance change with local voting control and no permanent tax change rate to the tax change, permanent tax rate change? That was because that was informed from the focus groups and stakeholder meetings that were held prior to that poll going out, where there was both not the right time, not the right economy, not the right environment to be asking for a permanent tax rate. I had already been trying to develop a strategy that we could achieve the same goals that we need, but without that permanent rate change right now. That could come later, but a local option levy acts in the same way as a tax rate increase, except it's 5 years, it's sunsetted, which gives me as a district director that ability to benchmark and say, okay, we're asking you to approve an increase by this amount for 5 years. At the end of that, if we haven't delivered on the promises that we said what we were going to do in that 5 years, you just don't reauthorize that increase or that rate to be done. So it gives it the same amount of money as we would in an increase, say a 20-cent increase or a 30-cent increase to what we've got. So we would go from 54 to say 84 cents. Well, if we just did a 30-cent local option levy, it's 5 years sunsetted and it has that big performance measure. It's not permanent. It's not to the end of time. We can do everything that we're doing right now with all of our park maintenance and facility operations with the tax rate that we've got right now. What we can't do is look at anything beyond what we're doing right now, which is where the local option levy comes in. But we haven't wanted to get ahead of the data from the community and the needs assessment part of the system plan that's going to drive any amount that we would be talking about for a local option levy, because I'm just throwing numbers out there, 10, 20, 30 cents. But we would want that to be an informed thing that we bring back to the body to say, hey, the community is set. We want XYZ. We're willing to go for a lot levy. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I
Okay.
think education there would be essential because maybe we might find the opposite's true. People are fine paying in perpetuity an extra amount to have fantastic parks and facilities.
It could be a very expensive thing to find out though, and that's the thing. It's a long time consuming and can be very expensive to get shot down when we've got an alternative that says, hey, we're just asking for 5 years of funding and you tell us whether we did a good job. I like that. To me, that sounds more appealing even from an operations side.
So I just want to do a time check here. I know Katie, you had a question. You want to ask it real quick?
I did. I think it'll be better asked after phase one. I had some demographic questions about what happens in a theoretical, what if there's a new developer that comes in and a lot of houses are built and all of a sudden, we have big demographic changes, like our flexibility is built into that, but I figured that's probably better asked in the plan phase. Or unless Katie, I see her hand is up, so
Yeah.
maybe she does have input on that.
Well, hold on, Katie, don't just go. Chair has to give permission because we're running out of time.
Yeah, so I just want to maybe suggest, there's a lot of really, really good questions here. Could we take this time to send some emails so I can get some of these items on the agenda so we can actually dig into them a little bit more and maybe have like a good 15-minute discussion about funding strategies, demographic changes. Would everybody be agreeable to that?
But remember also on those questions as you're developing them, there's a lot that we just don't know until the process happens. So getting a lot of specifics or playing the what if games, we just won't know until we're kicked off. So after phase one is.
I'm 6 months into phase two and we're still going, oh shoot, now we've got to ask this because this new piece came up. So it is an iterative process. Allie, did you have a quick question that you wanted to ask?
I did, but it can also wait. I also recognize the time, so it's something that can be brought up at the next meeting, or I can get it to you.
I would love for all of these detailed questions to be emailed to the.
We can have you all email Jessica and she can compile them and we can take a look at what we can answer and answer them and farm it out to others if we have difficulty.
thank you for your flexibility on the questions. We're gonna move on to the next item, which is goal setting. I'm proud to say that this will be very fast. It will not be 50 minutes, I promise you. Okay, so I just want to go over the goal setting, give a quick overview of goal setting for the community that's listening and also our group here. We started 6 months ago, was it? 5 months ago, trying to find a way to set goals for the DAC. Now, obviously, as we just heard, the system plan is that community vision that will eventually be our guide of finding out how we set our goals and priorities and how we help move forward community vision. We have an interim time where we have to have some goals. I do think the system plan is a goal that we should be focusing on and finding ways of engaging and helping. There's also the governance, and I've already requested that when governance is available to actually be discussed, that be put on a rolling agenda item for updates. I talked to Mike about that. So to move forward with the goal setting piece, Aaron with Clackamas County came through, provided some material, finalized material. And what I'm suggesting is that we get 2 to 3 volunteers in the DAC to review that material, but also look at our charter and what are our guiding principles of the charter, and make a connection between those 2 goals and that and our charter and our guiding principles. And then meet at the next meeting and see what those outcomes are. So first, before, that's an idea to move this forward, so we don't do 4 more months of this, or we wait till a system comes back. I'd like to open it to discussion. So anybody have any questions, any ideas on that process?
Or volunteers.
Or volunteers. I was gonna say volunteers later if everybody's like, yeah, it's cool.
So I guess I want to reiterate what I think I heard you say is, yeah, I wasn't here for the goal setting. So there was a body of information that was developed. And that if you were to put together this subcommittee, they would take that information, put it into some format that puts it, digest it down to some level, connecting it with these other elements of, say, the guiding principles of the charter, with the intent of bringing that back to this group for discussion and consensus. Is that generally how I'm understanding what you're saying?
That was beautiful, yes.
Do I get a gold star?
No, we don't have any other available. We don't have a budget. Do you have any more questions?
No, just wanted clarification.
Kate?
I'm wondering what the idea on a timeline would be for that. So like, what is the hope of this group, like by the next meeting, would they hopefully, solidify
I
that?
would hope so, because we have a handful of goals.
Yeah.
And then we also have a charter. It would be really great for us all. I need to review the charter. There's been a lot of work put into that. Look at those guiding principles. Have this team work together. It could be over email, however they decide to do it. And have something to present to this body at the next meeting. I do have something about the meeting. It's not going to be the exact date. We'll talk about that at the very end. That's my thoughts on that. Lisa.
So I would just say, for the benefit of the newer people who didn't go through goal setting with us, and my impression of the goal setting was that, I think we did some nice brainstorming. We filled this board a few times with things, and it was good to hear where other people were coming from. But the actual end product of goals were pretty simple, and probably any of us could have said them, frankly. They were pretty obvious and pretty simple. So I don't want us to spend a ton more time on this. I do think they should, it was like 4 goals, and they were very obvious things to me. So I don't feel like we need to spend a lot more time. I guess a reality check against the charter so that we're not doing anything in conflict makes some sense. But again, I just feel like we've done it. We just need to get some final wording.
I appreciate that. That's the whole point in saying, let's get 2 or 3 people, not a quorum, and just let's tie this up. So we can keep moving forward. Grover.
I just wanted to know, I'm not sure when we refer to charter and guiding principles, what we're referring to, and I don't know if everybody else does, but I'm not, that doesn't bring anything to mind.
Well, the charter really does point out,
What charter?
You're talking the bylaws.
or I'm sorry, bylaws, the DAC bylaws.
Oh, okay,
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
Correction, everybody.
Well, I did not know what you were referring to, bylaws.
Yeah, and just make sure that they're consistent and we move forward so that we can help with the system plan, help with governance when it comes forward, and put this project rest and have it help us keep moving forward. Does that help?
Yeah, that. thank
Sorry
you.
about that. And thank you for the, I have 3 other committees that I'm running and one of them is a charter. So you'll excuse me. Oh, David, yes.
Yeah, I agree with Lisa said too, that we spent a lot of time on, and my recollection is that, Aaron was going to do a compilation of this and get back to us. at some point. And you did, so it should already be boiled down, that's why I thought you were going to boil it down to these four things we worked on for positions: system plan, governance, relationship and meaningful engagement. And funding, that was the last thing that I had. And people had sent in things and she was going to discuss it, and she was going to boil it down to a 1-pager.
Yeah.
Principal comparison like that. And so I haven't, and so how can, do we really need a committee to do that? If he's already doing that or has done that or is going to do that?
Well, that's discussion. Maybe we don't. Again, this was put out there to move this forward.
Yeah.
And get something. Jeanette, I did see you wanna. Go ahead.
Where might I find the bylaws on the website and the goals document?
So it's on the, I believe it's either DAC or Board of Directors, link on our website.
The bylaws are there, but not the goal, it's goal document.
Oh, the goals, the goal documents wouldn't be there, just the bylaws.
They should be from our notes for our previous meetings. I thought.
Yeah, and if not, I think there was an email maybe or a couple that went through from like Aaron to you all, so. I'll have Jessica look through and see, and resend those out to everybody, just to the top of your inbox.
Maybe
anyways.
Erin, if she had any additional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the email that had like the kind of 4 summary goals with some of the history on there, I think it's in a single document. So we'll get that sent out to you all.
Yeah, I think Aaron's collection of information will be good before we make a decision on what you just proposed. My suggestion.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions on that? So do we want to get Aaron's information first, and then hopefully by the next meeting we can make a decision on this? I want to get consensus from the group.
I'm wondering, and Mike, do you know, is Erin's work done with us or is she planning on coming back?
It would be at our invitation. I mean, I hired her
Yeah.
at an hourly rate.
Yeah, okay.
To lead us through. We finished at that last one, and with the new change in leadership, I said, well, let's hold off on August. If the chair or if the body wants to bring her back for additional time, or if you think that she got you what you needed, that's I'm open to suggestion on that.
See, we haven't gotten any from her since June.
Yeah, well, there really hasn't been any interaction between you all since then. She gave you the kind of 4 summary categories, I think is what she would call them, and then the discussion last month got a little sideways on, kind of lost talking about those.
I want to check in, Maureen, I want to make sure that we're observing. Do you have any comments?
No, I am though, want to stay in agreement that we've kind of hashed out the goal setting thing, and however you feel like we can tie it up, then let's do it.
Okay.
I personally think it would be probably prudent to do a subcommittee to just make sure it's tied up and maybe it's looking at it and saying, you know, hey, we as a group feel like these are really good, or maybe it's reworking some of it, but I don't think Erin wanted to write it for us. I think she wanted to guide us.
Mhm.
And so I don't think she felt like that was it.
And the thought about this is that that subgroup would do some tweaks to the language based off of what they've observed with the bylaws. Not charted. I just want to finish going around the table so we can, Lisa, do you have any more comments?
I mean, I'm not opposed to a subgroup if people wanna serve on a subgroup.
What do you think?
Hammer it
My
out.
answer is the same as hers.
Well, having sat through as a person in the audience through two of those meetings,
Yeah.
the last one, you guys are at an impasse as far as I can tell. And so I feel like there's some unfinished business. And I would like to see it finished.
My recollection is that she was gonna provide us some additional information. I don't know, because I have attached my thing here, which was, everybody made comments like that. She was going to sort them out. That's my understanding. She was gonna sort them out and provide something. It doesn't mean if our job is necessarily done, that subcommittee can start with that. But there would be somebody to start with rather than this,
Didn't she assign different people to write different?
Yeah, we
ones? I mean,
did.
volunteer.
Yeah.
We already did that.
We sent it.
Is that-
Did we get that as a
We did.
file?
Yeah.
We should, I have no idea.
Okay.
If we're going to receive any additional information, I think that'd be great for the committee to review and start with. But I do think a subcommittee review,
I think that would be a key.
that would be key, otherwise they're starting from something that's not there.
Okay. Julianne, do you have any?
I concur that reviewing them against the goals against the bylaws is a really important step. And I think subcommittee work is ideal.
Ellen?
Let me just clarify. So from what I'm understanding, because this is my first meeting and I'm trying to catch up a little bit. There's been 4 meetings in the past, an hour each has been spent in creating goals. We're at the point now where most of the goals have been pretty much written, but there needs a little bit of finesse to them. And with this document, the hope is to be able to create like a document where then we could bring it to our subsequent meetings to hold us to those goals.
It's to keep us focused until we get our system plan finished.
Okay,
And we really get it, and this is my, let me just say this is how I'm seeing it. It's to get us to the system plan, which is the community's. The community's voice. It may not be all 175,000 people, but it's a massive, supposedly a massive sampling of the community's voice.
okay,
And just to get us to that point.
okay,
Which I mean, we're kind of doing it now. We're talking about system plan, we're talking about governance, talking about some other items and the projects that are occurring currently, like the community center.
Yeah.
So,
okay. But the goals are not in a place where we can access them yet.
no, and I think we need to have Aaron email that to the whole group.
yeah, well, I think like I said, I'm pretty sure Jessica's got that. We'll pull together what we've got. If we think we're missing anything, I'll reach out to Aaron.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I'd like to just see if there's 2-3 volunteers that would like to just be able to look at that. I can look at it. I am not suggesting I look at it since I'm the chair, unless you all want me to look at it. Just be transparent. And then we have something like what am I trying to say? A final little one pager, our next meeting that we can look at. And
Yeah, and it may not even be like one, written thing for each of those 4. It might be a couple, 3 things to consider of ways to phrase things, or, I mean, it can take on whatever form the subcommittee wants it to, but just a starting point to open those discussions, based off of the last 4 months of work.
so we have, they're available. So do we have volunteers? Project volunteer?
I'm volunteering.
Yes, okay.
And Ryan, you.
Well, I did not volunteer.
I would like, I would also like Ryan to be part of that. I feel like your expertise.
Ask us to volunteer him.
Just to review, not to do it all.
Okay, all right, yeah. Anybody else interested? Maureen? Maureen? I see.
Her mute isn't, coming off. Yes.
So the proposal is to be done by email then?
So we'll get Aaron's stuff from email, Jeanette and I. Okay,
Well, I'll be glad to review it by,
yeah, and maybe once we get something together, we can just send it out for review. Just try to keep it as simple, but like, let's just tie the loose ends up. Do you have any? And we have Commissioner Sacks there. Hello, Commissioner Sacks. All right, so we have it.
Okay.
Nothing to, no action or anything like that, okay? Mike, updates, do you have some?
Just a few that it's, I mean, we're kind of in the midst of summer, so a lot of things are just continuing on. But Concord, I do want to say we, spoke to the board yesterday and they hopefully will approve it tomorrow night, the construction IGA for the Concord project. It's not the overall IGA, it's just the construction IGA that allows the county and library to come in and start breaking ground, hopefully by about a month from now, is the goal. And so, yeah, hopefully that goes through tomorrow. Beyond that, I believe early September is when we're planning on bringing the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price contract, to the board for approval, and that is the GMP. Again, I think the library has already done some of theirs. I'm talking NCPRD's GMP part for our portion of this startup. So it's going to come in a couple of different phases because we're still waiting on some numbers for a couple of them. So this first one will be the civil work, and I think the open ground and those components will get the building done as a separate one as we move along. And then once we have that construction IGA and that's rolling along, then we'll be starting to work on the negotiations with the library on the operational IGA of how do we handle maintenance and safety lights and garbage and those kind of things. I don't anticipate problems. I've worked with and amongst library folk for almost my whole career. We're not reinventing any wheels here. We just got to put it all down on paper so that way 10 years from now, when nobody can remember why we came up with that, we've got something on paper of how we split things out. I don't have really anything for NCPRD funding other than you'll be seeing you'll get a quarterly financial report next month. And we've talked the system plan to death. So Chair, do you want me to talk about meetings beyond here or? Yeah. So as I said, we're anticipating breaking ground this time next month. So this is anticipated to be the last meeting here at this facility for the foreseeable future. So starting in September, we're going to be at the North Clackamas Aquatic Park and be set up in there. I can't remember the name of the room. The Parkside room. Thank you.
It sure does.
Yeah, Lanai deck, pool meeting. And that's also just for your information, that's also where we'll be moving our NCPRD Board of Directors meeting in September also. We'll be in the same location. And then the only other thing that I had was the October meeting is due to be, I think it's October 11th. That is the same week as our National Parks and Rec Association conference in Dallas. So a good chunk of my leadership is going to be gone. I was going to recommend either we look at the next week, which would be, I believe, the 18th. 18. Or have something maybe non-traditional other than a meeting that needs to be fully vetted with all of this and look at some sort of retreat or something else. But it's really, or you skip the month of October. I mean, that, option 3. So, but we won't be around the week of the 11th.
Are there, real quick on that, any comments, questions for folks?
I'm sorry to just clarify for me if you would. Park. Community Center, Library. Are all 3 of them included in the GMP that's being put out forward by the general contractor?
Yeah.
Or separate?
There's a portion of, and I have to go back. The library one is separate. I believe there was some of the civil work that was part of that in there, which is somewhat part of ours. The one that we're putting forth to get things moving, I believe if I'm remembering correctly, is the playground, the park, the rest of the outdoor stuff. And I think a portion of the playground is not even included in that because we don't know if we've gotten the LGGP grant yet. So it's hard for us to set that. So we anticipate there's going to be a secondary GMP not months away. I mean, we need to get this all done, but we couldn't put it all into one package at this point. I think there's also still some finalized stuff that we're trying to do with this building as far as the electrical service, the elevator, and the HVAC, trying to bring some cost escalations down to within, overall, we're still shooting for that 14.9 or I think 14.9 was the final overall GMP, but it's just going to come in a couple of different chunks.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna open public comment. Is there anybody that has public comment and filled out with comment card? Come on up. Come on down.
Come on down.
Maybe I should be on the price Friday. Just a second, I have to put a timer on 3 minutes, not 3 minutes, whenever you're ready.
Okay, my name is Thelma Hagan Miller. I am a resident of Oak Grove in the unincorporated area of North Clackamas County. Years ago, North Clackamas Parks and Rec District had a nonprofit organization or foundation or whatever you want to call it. We have an abundance of people in North Clackamas County who might be willing to make donations to a nonprofit if North Clackamas Parks and Rec District had one. Many of these people have kids who went to Concord School, but I haven't heard this item being part of tonight's discussion of future plans, and I think it should be.
Thank you. So like a Parks Foundation.
Yeah, and it is, I did talk about an alternative revenue sourcing, foundational revenue. Was what I had, and that was what my point was. That's going to be a recommendation from our system plan. I'm hoping, ideally, a community creates a foundation, not the entity, the agency. I would be in wholehearted support of a foundation and would lend whatever support we can, but there's some restrictions just on us being involved in a 501c3, but a traditional foundation is a fundraising, a nonprofit tax benefited fundraising arm of an agency, and we would love to have that.
Selma?
Yeah.
When you start a Parks Foundation?
Sure would help.
All right.
I mean, I firmly believe it. People come to me all the time saying, they have things that items or property or something that they would give to
Yep.
the Parks District, but not under the current system.
Well,
They
yeah.
have to give it to a 501c3, and we don't have one. We used to,
Is there any other public comment?
so I don't know why we don't have one. I'm
Thank-
just bringing it up because it's part of long-term planning.
Thank you very much.
We don't have anybody, a member of the public online at this point.
DAC member reports. Oh, Katie was first.
I just want to say I had the opportunity to go to the Movies in the Park event at Sub Area 3's Pfeiffer Park last Saturday. It was awesome. well loved by many of my neighbors, slammed, as expected, but it was a really great time. So thank you for NCPRD for putting that on. All I got.
Lisa?
I have a few announcements starting along those lines. Yeah, the movies in the park are midstream. There's still a couple more of them coming. Milwaukee parks have, 2 Milwaukee neighborhoods do concerts in parks in, August. And so all Wednesdays in August, there are concerts in Ball Michelle Park, which is over on Stanley, just north of King Road. In fact, I'm going there with cut a spring in like 2 minutes. And,
Great.
Ardenwald, Park near Ardenwald Elementary has concerts on Thursday nights, so stop by and hear some music. I think there's food sold at both of them. Next, on Tuesday, the 22nd of August, the Milwaukee Planning Commission is going to hear the plans for Bowman Bray and the Balfour Parks. These are the 2 parks that Milwaukee got ARPA funding to build. 2 of 3, we have a 3rd one as well, which is the one next to the library, is gonna get some enhancements out of that. So anyone who's interested in seeing those plans or testifying, that's planning commission meeting on Tuesday, October 22nd. And this probably not, people probably don't know this, who live outside Milwaukee, but Bowman and Bray Park has had an access issue on one side of the park with some neighbors. That has been resolved and the access is now open as of last Friday. So it does create better connectivity for all neighbors of that park to get to the park. And I will say both Bowman and Bray and Balfour have just got those names because those are the streets they're on. I am advocating on city council that before they are finished with their construction next fall, that we need to have a naming process at the park. So I do hope that we will be doing that.
The Jennings Lodge community is having a picnic on the 19th, 3rd August of every year is hopefully the new plan. Come on down, enjoy yourself. I won't be there, I'm out of the country, but everyone else, please enjoy yourself.
Vacation, I hope.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Any other comments? I have one. I just want to thank NCPRD for showing up at the Oak Grove Festival that occurred on the 21st. July 15th. Showed up, was part of the Oak Grove Festival. It was double the size in little downtown Oak Grove, area 2. It was awesome. We're having food carts, everything like that. So thank you and thank your staff for being there, giving quite a presence. And I'd just like to thank all of the staff for the work that they do. You do amazing work with the resources that you have. And I want to make that really clear to our board of directors with the resources that you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so DAC district monthly report, were there any questions on that? We don't need to really go over it. And if you have any questions on some of the programming things going on, please be sure to email those directly to the DAC and Mike so that we can get answers. A lot of times it's hard to get answers in a meeting because we don't necessarily have the staff that can answer that.
Yeah, and even an email to Jessica, just, hey, a constituent, was asking about so-and-so or whatever, we'll answer it as quickly as we can.
I threw you under the bus and said Mike's.
So you can email me too. I mean, easy way.
That was a beautiful segue, Ryan, because I want to let you know, I plan to ask about the intersection between the Clackamas walk bike plan and our district's system planning. So I will send that as an email for a future agenda item.
And I like that because then if there's something, then we can talk about putting it on the agenda. So any ideas or questions?
Oh, I see you, Katie.
Oh, wait, Katie, yes, Katie.
I can answer that question really quickly. I have actually been sitting on the walk bike plan for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District on the board that's been working on that plan with the county. And NCPRD staff will continue to be engaged in that plan over the coming year as the system plan is also being done.
Well, thank you, exceeding my expectations.
My question is actually about how we get more information about that, about this walk bike plan. Where is that available? Who's doing this plan?
It's on the DTD.
Yeah,
website.
it's a county.
The county,
yeah.
okay.
It's the Shed Bike Committee and it's all in the CIA newsletter.
Yeah.
There's a whole,
Yeah, there's a whole.
Awesome. Very cool.
Right, are there any other questions on this monthly report? Future dates, moving on to future dates, September, agenda submission no later than Wednesday, August 16th, please. Next week, and then we'll have finalization of the agenda on the 21st. Katie, we'll talk about how we're going to do that, the next steps. And then the next DAC meeting will be Wednesday, September 13th, 2023 in the pool, the aquatic center.
Bring your water wings.
Bring your water wings.
I was gonna say, next one would be very bad because it's
Oh,
gonna be
so
raining.
right.
So, yeah,
It's maintenance.
Oh,
bring your skateboard. Yeah.
the way you treat it.
And right, just a couple of things on the September agenda. We anticipate the trolley trail safety audit results. It's still in draft form, so it just depends on how much revision and kind of back and forth. We hope to do it in September. If not, it'll be October. We also anticipate bringing you all our recommendations for fee increases. We did not do that at budget time because we didn't want it getting all confused with budget stuff. So the intent was we do it in September, which allows us to hopefully put new fees in place for our winter, spring programs and definitively through summer. When we're trying to approve fee chain increases in July, it just screws up the whole fee cycle. So we anticipate bringing that to you all in September with the intent of hopefully getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down to then send to the board of directors at their meeting the following in September.
That's all I got. So we'll maybe make just a little update on that.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's nothing else, yes, David.
I had a note here to, an updated DAC list, people who I'd like to get a list, so everybody like that.
Yep, we'll get that sent out.
And is it on the
I don't know if it's updated yet.
update on?
What area they represent.
Yeah, we'll get an updated list with, I know we've got Ally's name, but I don't know if she's official on the website and all of that, so. And same thing with Jeanette. All right, glamour shots all around.
Again, thank you, everyone, and just close the meeting, so I can just gavel.
Just gavel it out.
Okay, this meeting is closed.
We say adjourn, but you know.
This meeting is closed, adjourned, done. Not Robert's rule, but. Thank you all. Oh, gosh.